Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Andy's Witchcraft by me, Sacred Moon. I hope you're all having a wonderful day so far. I'm recording this on Beltane, so I'm super excited. I'm going to spend some time. The weather is beautiful. I'm going to go on a walk. I'm going to go to the gym and just enjoy nature and connect with the Fae and probably leave them some offerings. So I'm super excited for that. And if you're listening to this probably after Beltane, I hope you had a wonderful one and you found ways to celebrate it, even in small ways. Today's episode, as I kind of discussed briefly in last episode, I said I was going to talk about Vesak. This is a Buddhist holiday. It is my first time celebrating it. I'm super excited to do this. I gotta find small ways to do it and bigger ways to do it. And if you want to celebrate with me, then stick around to this episode and find out. But if you're interested in Buddhism and Buddhist holidays, also stick around and maybe learn a thing or two. So let's get started, shall we? You may be wondering, what the heck is Vesak? Well, this is also known as Buddha Day. It's also spelled Vesak with a W. This holiday marks the birth, enlightenment, and death of the Buddha Siddhartha Gautama. And the reason they're all celebrated on the same day, not by all Buddhists, it depends on the branch of Buddhism that you're a part of, but most of them, I think, do celebrate it kind of at the same time or around the same time. And it's because, although we can't know for certain, it is believed that the Buddha was born, was enlightened, and died on the same day in different years throughout his life. And so they thought, why not celebrate it on the same day? Now, again, it's not certain because the calendar is a more man-made thing and it has changed during the years. But because they follow the lunar calendar, it's a little bit different and a little more consistent throughout the years. But regardless, they celebrate them together or on different days, depending again on the branch of Buddhism that you are a part of. Vesak is a sacred day to reflect on the teachings of the founder of Buddhism, Gautama Buddha, and it kind of started with learning about the Buddha's life, and I've already talked all about it on a podcast episode on the Buddha. I will link that below if you want to check that out. Learn about his life, his birth, his upbringing, his enlightenment, his death, and then you can learn why it's such a sacred day and why he's such a sacred individual to venerate. Vesak is observed on different days year to year, but again, most celebrations are planned for the first full moon of May. This year, that falls on May 23rd, 2024. Buddhists in China, however, follow the Chinese lunar calendar, so they observe the holiday on the 8th day of the 4th month of the lunar year, and that usually makes it fall sometime in June. But regardless of when you celebrate it, the significance of it remains consistent across cultural practices. Vesak Day originated in Southeast Asia, and it's largely considered to be a Theravada Buddhist holiday. But many Buddhist traditions, including Zen Buddhists and Tibetan Buddhists, do choose to observe this day. So now I kind of want to talk briefly about what Buddhists avoid during Vesak. And it's kind of like the superstitions, but it's also it's mostly the spiritual significance. There are two main things that Buddhists avoid doing during Vesak. The first one is eating meat, because Vesak is a time to honor all living creatures, so they abstain from eating meat out of respect for the living creatures. Even if you are a Buddhist who eats meat, typically they abstain for just this one day to show their appreciation for life. The second thing that Buddhists avoid during Vesak is drinking alcohol or in drug use, non-prescribed drug use. Vesak is a time to focus on mindfulness and meditation. Alcohol and drugs are thought to impede that, so they typically abstain from these substances on this day. So now I kind of want to talk about Vesak associations. These are items where if you're going to make an altar for Vesak, an altar for the Buddha, you can make it and include these items. A lot of them are opinion based because I choose to venerate and worship the Buddha. Not worship, I venerate him in a witchy way. So a lot of these are just based on my own research and based on my own opinions and intuitions as well. Because Vesak is not really associated with any element or color or symbols or crystals or anything like that. Because not all Buddhists are witches, right? So a lot of these are based on my intuition. These are just my opinions and my advice. But go with your gut. If you want to use a different symbolism, if you want to associate it with a different element, or if you want to use different crystals, that's fine too. You can do that. And yeah, just go with the flow here. The element that, in my opinion, represents Vesak the best is the water. And because water is the element closest associated to cleansing bad karma and closest associated with birth and rebirth, which are two main themes in Vesak. It's all about cleansing the negative energy and bringing in the positive energy to be reborn in a more enlightened way. Colors that I associate with Vesak are blue, yellow, red, white, and orange. These are colors of the Buddhist flag. These 6 colored rays were thought to have emanated from the Buddha when he attained enlightenment. And so, obviously, on the day that we celebrate his enlightenment, it's going to kind of be associated with the two. Each of these colors is thought to represent a quality of Buddhism that we should strive for. So blue represents peace, unconditional loving kindness, and compassion. Yellow represents the middle path that avoids the futility of self-indulgence and self-mortification. Red represents blessings of generosity, virtue, fortitude, and wisdom. White is associated with the purity of Buddhist teachings, and orange is associated with the wisdom of Buddhist teachings. So these colors you could kind of wear on this day to emanate the energy, do some color magic and emanate the qualities of these colors. And you can also decorate the altar with these colors of ribbons and flowers and all that stuff. Paint an altar if you have a box. I like to have my altars in boxes, like travel altars. So I'll paint the box these colors, for example. And it works out, right? Foods and drinks associated with Vesak are vegetarian foods for the reasons I listed before, milk rice, because rice is actually a very popular food that is indulged in during Buddhist celebrations because of its pure and cleansing features. And they also serve oil cakes. So these are foods that you can indulge in during Vesak. Drinks, as long as they're non-alcoholic, they're basically the go-to drinks for this time. I like to drink like orange juice, for example, because orange is known to emanate positivity and joy, which is a quality that I want to embrace to get past the negative things, right? And so I like to practice some magic in those traits. And for example, cinnamon in my coffee, that's something I do on a daily basis, but it's something I'm especially going to do on this day because I want an abundance of mindfulness, an abundance of peace, right? Abundance is not necessarily for material goods, but it's also for anything that you want plentifulness of, if that makes sense. But yeah, again, go with the flow, do what you do. Orange juice and cinnamon in my coffee are like my go-to drinks for celebrating various holidays, including Vesak. Crystals associated with Vesak are moonstone for new beginnings, and because they're associated with the moon, and because this holiday falls on the full moon every year, moonstone is a great thing. And again, new beginnings, so that theme of birth and rebirth, moonstone really emphasizes that theme. And so this is a great thing. And it makes sense because moonstone is my favorite crystal. It is my number one go-to crystal. I have so many of various different colors, which I use for different ways. Black moonstone for protection, white moonstone for cleansing properties, all that kind of stuff. Amethyst. Tibetans considered amethyst to be sacred to the Buddha, and they typically make prayer beads from it. And so amethyst is a great thing, again, to look at and think of the Buddha and think of his teachings, which is what this day is all about. Next, we have lapis lazuli, which is called a stone of total awareness. This expands awareness and intellectual capacity, which makes it easier to meditate, easier to be mindful, easier to just focus on yourself and ignore what is happening around you. And because Buddhists practice meditation on a daily basis, this is a crystal that can definitely be used to help amplify that energy. Next, we have jade. Jade symbolizes purity, wisdom, and compassion. Again, these are traits of the Buddha. These are traits of his teachings. And these are traits that we want to emanate in our daily lives. So jade can definitely help us with that. And finally, howlite. This is associated with calmness, patience, and stress relief. Again, really great for meditation. Stress relief is a huge thing as well. Anxiety relief. This is what's going to help us focus on ourselves and ignore the shitty things that's happening in our lives and just focus on Buddha and what he has given us and the gifts, and to practice gratitude is a huge thing. We have to be calm and patient and relieved of stress to practice gratitude, to say, I'm grateful for the things that I have and I want nothing. I want for nothing. I need for nothing. I have all I need. And so these crystals that I've all listed can help us get on that path of gratitude and enlightenment. Now, let's talk about some symbols of Vesak. The first thing I have are lamps, or like any source of light. Candles, light bulbs, anything. These symbolize the radiance of knowledge and awareness. So again, the Buddhist teachings helped us gain so many knowledge. And again, there's a lot more mystery to life than this, but it did help us gain some insight into how suffering works and how we can overcome it, and how suffering we're going to go through no matter what, but it doesn't have to lead to pain. And so it helped us differentiate between the two and gain knowledge of ourselves and wisdom about the universe. Next, we have flowers. These are typically offered to statues of the Buddha. And these flowers, no matter what kind they are, in general, that devotion of giving them to the Buddha symbolize purity and love. Next, we have charity events. So acts of charity, giving, being there for a friend in need, but especially for vulnerable populations like the poor and the homeless. The act of charity embodies peace and compassion, which is what the Buddhist teachings are all about. And so it is a huge symbolism. It's a symbolic act to do, to give. And then finally, we have the Bodhi leaf. This is a little less spiritual and like mushy and emotional, but it just symbolizes the enlightenment of the perfectly enlightened Buddha. So Bodhi leaves, and they believe it's because he meditated under the Bodhi tree, and so Bodhi leaves kind of remind us of that moment that he reached true enlightenment. Next, we'll talk about animals associated with Vesak. All animals in general are symbolic in like Vesak terms. In some countries, one Vesak ritual is to release thousands of birds, insects, and animals to symbolize giving freedom to those in captivity. And because this is a time to remember the sanctity of life, animals in general are thought to be sacred, especially on this day. Again, though, specific species of animals can symbolize various things that are important to keep in mind during Vesak. For example, deer symbolize peace, harmony, and longevity. Elephants symbolize beauty, power, dignity, intelligence, and peace. Horses symbolize energy and effort in practicing the Dharma. Lions symbolize royalty, strength, and bravery. Phoenixes symbolize peace and tranquility. And peacocks symbolize wisdom, and peacocks are actually associated with the Bodhisattvas. No idea why, but I found that out and I thought that was very interesting. But the point is, different animals can exhume, is that the word? Exhibit, that's the word. Different animals can exhibit various traits that are important for us to act and show during Vesak. And we have plants and herbs next. So any plants and herbs that are associated with peace and tranquility are very good during this time, especially if they can help you get into that preparation for meditation and mindfulness. So for example, we have lavender, African violet, lotus flowers, peace lily, cosmo flower, pincushion flowers, peony, and white poppy. So all these plants and herbs can symbolize and help us exhibit peace and tranquility in our daily lives. Finally, spell work that you can do for Vesak are cleansing rituals, self-love spells, meditation practices, and yes, meditation is a form of spell work, manifestation spells, and peace spells. In general, very much altruistic spell work is popular during this time. Again, charity and acts of giving are important. So spells that are to bring more peace and love in the world, and not just, obviously I'm not telling you do a spell on particular individuals. I believe consent is very important in spell work. Unless you're doing a justice working, then obviously you're not going to go, oh, can I do a spell on you for karma? No, we're not. But we're like love spells and stuff like that. You don't want to mess with people's lives like that. That's messy. So things that are altruistic for the world and the universe, spells that will release positive energy into the universe, those are the types of spells that are really good for Vesak. Now, finally, as always, I'm going to end off with some Buddhist traditions. And so these are ones that I'm going to try, and they're ones that Buddhists do all over. And they're ones that are very doable for you to try as well. So the first thing I have on this list is that devotees typically assemble in their local temples for a ceremonial hoisting of the Buddhist flag and a singing of hymns praising the three jewels. Buddhists reaffirm their devotion to the Buddha's 10 precepts and teachings during this time. Now, if you can't go to a temple for any reason, whether it's because you're in the closet as a Buddhist and nobody knows, or because there's not one nearby to you, I think the nearest Buddhist temple for me is an hour drive away, which I can't always make. But you could always do this kind of thing on your own in your home, especially if you have your own Buddha statue, or you can make your own Buddhist flag. You could color one. They're not that hard to make. It's just a bunch of lines in different colors. So you could do that yourself and hoist it up on your own and just reaffirm your devotion to the Buddha, and say that you're relying on the Buddha, the Sangha, and the Dharma for your daily life and daily enlightenment. So that's one tradition that you could do during Vesak. Another thing is a ritual called bathing of the Buddha. Now, this is when Buddhists pour water over a statue of the Buddha to show respect for his teachings and to celebrate new beginnings. According to the legend, when Prince Siddhartha, or the Buddha, was born, 9 heavenly dragons appeared and emitted the purest water to cleanse the newly born prince. The baby prince then walked 7 steps, and each of those steps, a lotus flower sprang from beneath his feet. And with the right hand pointing towards the sky and the left one towards the ground, he said, "Heaven above and earth beneath, I am the honored one, the one who liberates all who suffer in the realms." So I love that legend, whether it's true or not, whether it's metaphorical. I think it's just very spiritual and significant. And it's just a reminder that water is such a popular purifier in various religions, Christianity, Buddhism, even mikvah in Judaism. I think that's what it's called, a mikvah. But there's lots of cleansing rituals with water in various religions, and this is just another one. And so if you have a Buddha statue, considering pouring water on it. I plan to pour water from the new moon. I'm going to charge it under the new moon and pour it over my Buddha statue. And that's going to, because new moon water is really great for new beginnings and cleansing and all that, and rebirth and birth. So I do plan on doing that. And I think it's just a really cool ritual to give a try. Next is gifts of offerings. So if you have your own Buddha altar to put offerings on there, you could burn incense, you could put candles, you could put flowers, you could put a small bowl of the food you make, especially if they're rice, right? Just a small bowl of rice for the Buddha. That's really great. And those are just offerings that you can give to show your appreciation and say, thank you for your teachings. I will strive to follow them in my daily life. Next, we have paper lanterns. Paper lanterns are lit and released into the water and the sky in some countries. And some countries also display extravagant lights to illustrate the Buddha's life. Again, lanterns represent enlightenment in the dark times. So by lighting a paper lantern, you are just remembering that even in your worst moments, even on your worst days, there is light, and that light comes from the Buddhist teachings. That being said, if you don't have a lantern, you can light candles, especially candles that are the colors of the Buddhist flag. So any of the colors listed above, you can do that as well, and it symbolizes the exact same thing. Again, acts of kindness and good deeds, they're crucial during Vesak. This is all about being altruistic. It's all about not caring for yourself. It's all about putting others first and putting the Buddhist teachings first. And so donating to a charity, donating food or clothing, or providing medical care to those in need is very popular during this time. Visiting orphanages and hospitals, or even donating blood. These are acts of kindness that release positive karma into the universe, which is something that we want to do on a daily basis. We could also practice gratitude. Gratitude is a great small way to release positive energy into the universe. Writing a list of everything you are grateful for and focusing on that rather than the bad stuff in your life is essential. The Buddha did tell us to get rid of our cravings and to be happy with what we have. And so by saying, these are things I'm grateful for, this is all I could ever want or need in life, I am content. That is what the Buddha teaches us. And finally, meditation. Controlling the mind, breath, and body, and focusing on the present and not worries about the future or past regrets. That is what the Buddha told us. That is how we eliminate cravings and attachment, and that is how we can reduce our suffering and eliminate our pain. That is all I had for this episode. I really hope you enjoyed learning about Buddhism as much as I did, and I hope you got a thing or two out of it. And maybe even if you're not a Buddhist, even if you don't work with or worship the Buddha, maybe you could just say a quick, hey, you've helped a lot of people. Thank you. And that's a great thing to do, just show appreciation for various religions who have saved many lives. Yeah. So, that being said, thank you all. If you enjoyed this content, you can follow me on social media where I post similar content to what I talk about in my podcasts. That will be in the link tree below. You could also join my Discord server, Crystal Caverns. We also talk about stuff regarding witchcraft, but I also talk a little bit about my craft on there, and I answer questions when I can, so you could join that. And I will talk about Buddhism all you want. I could talk your ear off if you want. So that will also be in the link tree below. And if you have a video idea and you want me to do a video on a certain topic, click the link tree below, go to Video Ideas Google form and fill out that Google form, and I will do a podcast episode on that topic as soon as I can. Thank you very much in advance. And finally, if you are listening to this on YouTube, you can support me by giving it a like, comment, and subscribe. And if you're listening on Spotify, give the podcast a follow, and you'll get notifications when I release new episodes. They come out bi-weekly on Fridays. I lied. That was not finally. Finally, if you want to find other ways to support me and the podcasts and all that, I do have a small divination reading one business. Divination reading business where I can provide tarot readings, oracle readings, and pendulum readings. You can get that in the link tree below as well. And support me, buy a divination reading off of me, and I would be greatly appreciated. I am going to school soon and I need to save up for tuition. Thank you to all who have already bought a reading off of me, and thank you to all who are even considering buying a reading off of me. Your support means more than I could ever express. And if you can't afford to buy a reading off of me, maybe you could spread the word about my business, spread the word about Sacred Moon Divination, and spread the word about my podcast, Andy's Witchcraft. Those are easy ways and free ways to support my business and my podcast. Thank you again. I love and appreciate you all. Now that is it for this episode. Thanks for listening to my spiel. Blessed be everyone. Have a great day, week, month, and year.